I almost became a dad. Until I found out my wife's pregnancy was a lie. There she was, framed in the doorway, sporting that expression I thought had vanished into the annals of time. Her expression was a mixture of fear, excitement, and a hint of divinity, all infused with a twist of fate. She raised the test as if it were the golden ticket to a lifetime of riches, her hand quivering just a tad, like a leaf in a gentle breeze. "Ethan," she said, her voice just a breath above silence, "I'm pregnant." I simply stood there, as if I were a statue in a park, waiting for someone to toss a coin my way or perhaps a squirrel to come and chat about the weather. There I was, probably resembling a total goofball, mouth agape like a fish out of water, toothbrush still clutched in my hand. At first, my brain just sort of stared blankly at the words, like a deer caught in headlights. "Are you pulling my leg?" I inquired. She nodded, her eyes glistening like two little puddles ready to spill over. And let's just say the tears flowed like a leaky faucet. The tears didn't come down with a loud roar, but instead, they sounded like a soft murmur. The tears weren't so intense that they would cause a director to shudder. It was as if a door had creaked open in my soul, and suddenly, a flood of light came rushing in, illuminating everything in its path. We had been giving it a go, on and off, for what felt like a whole year. We weren't getting all serious with charts and basal temperatures, but we had talked about it, dreamed about it, and now, lo and behold, it was actually happening. I recall wrapping my arms around her, the subtle whiff of the test strip's chemical aroma hanging in the air like an awkward third wheel. I planted a gentle kiss on her forehead. She let out a heartfelt wail, her tears soaking my shirt like a rainstorm on a summer day. It was as if it had jumped right off the page and into my life. Wow, it was like I was living in a novel. The upcoming weeks turned into a delightful whirlwind of planning, where every detail felt like a piece of cake, if only cake didn't have so many layers to juggle. She began her quest through the vast internet jungle, hunting for the perfect crib like a modern-day treasure seeker. We had a lively debate over names. I gave the spare room a fresh coat of paint, turning it from drab to fab in no time. I repeated this process twice for my friend. She remarked that the initial green was a bit too minty for her taste. I couldn't be bothered. If it meant I could witness that smile once more, I would have painted it countless times, brush in one hand, coffee in the other, and a touch of whimsy for good measure. She mentioned she wasn't quite ready to visit the OB, claiming something about bad luck before hitting the 10-week mark. You know, just your average superstition to keep things interesting. I didn't push her for answers. I picked up some prenatal vitamins for her, because apparently, growing a tiny human requires a bit more than just a good sense of humor and a steady supply of snacks. She never bothered to crack them open, but I thought maybe she was more into the gummies instead. There were no ultrasound appointments, no doctor visits, and my belly was still as flat as a pancake, but I didn't bother to raise an eyebrow at any of it. When you're head over heels and waiting for a little one, believing is just part of the package deal. You've got to have faith, my friend. And then, just like that, the morning arrived when everything decided to burst wide open. It had been approximately 8 weeks since she revealed her little secret to me. Just another Tuesday, where the silence is so thick you could cut it with a butter knife. Just as I was gearing up to head out for work, I made my way to the kitchen to snag my phone. Olivia was lounging on the couch during a video call, cradling a mug of herbal tea like it was the elixir of life. She was so engrossed in whatever she was doing that my descent down the stairs went completely unnoticed. Mia's voice blared through the speaker, as loud and delightfully obnoxious as ever. "Hold on a second, he's still in the dark about this?" And Olivia, with that delightful little giggle I once found utterly charming. "Well, that's a definite no. He's still under the impression that I'm expecting a little one. I'll just say it vanished into thin air. Everything is unfolding just as I envisioned it." I stayed as still as a statue, not even a twitch or a blink to give me away. My ears were ringing like a church bell on a Sunday morning. My vision shrank down to a pinhole. It was as if I had a front row seat to my own life, but from the other side of the street, munching on popcorn and wondering how it all turned out so bizarrely entertaining. I took a few cautious steps back, like a cat trying to avoid a bath. Up the stairs I went, into the bedroom, shutting the door behind me as if I were sealing the lid on a particularly sacred coffin. I plopped down on the edge of the bed and just sat there, contemplating the mysteries of life, or maybe just my laundry situation. Turns out, she wasn't expecting a little bundle of joy after all. She was never that way. And here I was, utterly clueless about what any of this was supposed to mean. Not just yet. Oh, but I was determined to uncover the truth. And when the moment came, I'd ensure it was etched in her memory forever. On that day, I hardly managed to string together a single sentence. At work, my body showed up, but my mind was still on vacation. But what about my mind? My thoughts were stuck in the kitchen, replaying those same 7 seconds like a broken record, and let me tell you, it was quite the show. He's still under the impression that I'm expecting a little one. I'll just say it vanished into thin air. Everything is unfolding just as I envisioned it. What on earth did that mean? So, what's the grand scheme here? Was it all about the cash? Oh, control? That's a slippery little fish, isn't it? Just when you think you've got a grip, it wriggles away, leaving you wondering if you ever really had it in the first place. It's like trying to herd cats, entertaining, but ultimately a bit chaotic. Hey there, listen up. Or could it be that there was another contender in the ring? Each possibility seemed to outdo the last in terms of misery, landing squarely in the gut like a surprise punch from a particularly grumpy kangaroo. I kept it to myself, like a secret stash of cookies hidden from the kids. Definitely not a friend. Definitely not a co-worker. Not even my brother, and trust me, that's saying something. He's the sort of fella who'd dig a hole for me without batting an eye or wondering what all the fuss is about. So, I decided to kick back at home and catch the show instead. Olivia was in the kitchen, whipping up a roasted veggie concoction that could only be described as a colorful masterpiece, or a culinary experiment gone slightly awry. She'd recently taken up the noble quest of clean eating during her pregnancy. "Hey there, darling," she chimed, throwing a quick look back with that bright, infectious grin. Well, it seems like those pesky cravings are finally knocking on my door, and I can't help but wonder if they brought cookies with them. Last night, I found myself in a bizarre dreamland where pickles and peanut butter were the stars of the show. Who knew they could be such a dynamic duo? I simply gave a nod. "That's pretty crazy," I remarked, trying to keep my voice steady. "So, how's everything else treating you? Feeling alright, or is the universe throwing you a curveball?" "Ah, yes indeed." She casually tossed a carrot into her mouth, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, because, really, who needs a fancy appetizer when you have a crunchy orange stick at hand? A bit worn out, but hey, that's just life, right? Oh, and Mia mentioned that spicy food could be a little miracle worker for nausea. She's turned into my go-to expert on all things pregnancy. My stomach did a little somersault. Ah yes, that was the very same Mia who found the whole situation hilarious during that call. The very same person who exclaimed, "Hold on, he still hasn't figured it out?" If Olivia was the one spinning tales, then Mia was right there, pom-poms in hand, cheering her on. I kept my eyes peeled for even the tiniest crack in her armor, but nope, she was as flawless as a freshly polished apple on a Sunday morning. She propped herself up against the counter, diving into yet another round of baby name brainstorming. She brought up Ella and Miles, along with something that packs a punch but isn't quite the battle cry of a Viking. I grinned and chuckled at all the right moments. Yet, deep down, I was jotting down every little detail. That evening, as she was busy with her shower, I took a little detour to investigate the bathroom drawer. The unopened prenatal vitamins sit on the shelf, silently judging me. The seal was still as intact as a secret diary in a teenager's room. I peered into the abyss of the trash can, wondering if today would be the day I discovered a hidden treasure or just the remnants of last week's pizza. Rest assured, the contents primarily consisted of pizza. Just the goods, no frills or fuss. Honestly, you could search high and low, and you still wouldn't find a single scrap of proof that she'd ever set foot in a doctor's office. There were no appointment reminders cluttering the fridge, no blood work results plastered on a door, and definitely no ultrasound printouts like I'd noticed in every other expecting couple's home. It was almost like we were playing a game of hide-and-seek with our baby's milestones. Absolutely nothing at all. I went so far as to peek at her calendar app. No doctor visits on the agenda, just a delightful brunch with Mia and a Pilates class charmingly dubbed Mood Boost. I perched on the edge of our bed, a towel that smelled like her favorite shampoo casually lounging on the footboard like it owned the place. She strolled out in her robe, a towel in hand, her hair still damp, and a grin plastered across her face. "Hey there, are you holding up all right?" She raised an eyebrow, clearly picking up on my face's little drama. I returned the smile, like a well-timed punchline in a comedy routine. "Oh, just feeling a bit worn out. What a marathon of a day at the office." She planted a kiss on my cheek and slid into bed as if we hadn't just shared a moment that could rival a soap opera plot twist. Yet, something had occurred. And here I was, sharing my home with someone I barely knew. Talk about an unexpected roommate situation. A random person decided it would be a great idea to act like they were toting around my kid. And honestly, I was as clueless as a cat in a dog park. Not just yet. But I had finally reached my limit on waiting for the truth to waltz into my life. From this moment on, I was determined to track it down all on my own. I spent the next 3 days grinning like a guy practicing his best poker face at away. I rose with the sun, brewed her a steaming cup of tea, planted a gentle kiss on her cheek, and gave her back a little rub when she mentioned her lower spine was throwing a tantrum thanks to our little bundle of joy. I found myself giving her a foot rub while she indulged in those classic rom-coms, sighing dramatically about her recent emotional roller coaster. Who knew foot massages came with a side of melodrama? She had a knack for it. Oh, absolutely. She was fantastic. If I hadn't picked up that call, I'd probably still be out there slapping paint on the nursery walls, sporting my dad's goofy, proud grin, and dreaming up the most extravagant gender reveal party imaginable. But what about now? Now I was keeping an eye on her like a cat watching a particularly interesting mouse. Serene, unhurried, perfectly motionless, yet somehow managing to keep those eyelids firmly shut. I had no intention of playing the role of a secret agent. I really wasn't thrilled about being in this situation. But boy, did it grind my gears not to know more. I couldn't shake the hunch that the truth would remain as elusive as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs when it came to her. Well, at least it wasn't intentional. That evening, she plopped her phone face down on the couch like it was a tired old dog, then hopped into the shower. I held off until the water decided to make its grand entrance. Half a minute. Well, that's all she wrote. It turned out her passcode was as stubborn as a mule, still the same old number. Ah, the day we celebrate the miraculous event of our union, our anniversary. Adorably charming. I cracked open my messages. Naturally, there were texts from Mia, as if she had a sixth sense for when I was trying to enjoy a moment of peace. But then I stumbled upon one, tucked away under Tina Yoga, that really made me stop and think. There was just something off about it, like a sock that mysteriously disappears in the laundry. The messages had a laid-back vibe. Not formal enough. As if they were penned by someone putting on a show of femininity. One fellow claimed he snagged it. Everything's just peachy. Only a handful of weeks left, and then we'll be off to the races. Well, if I say I misplaced it, you can bet it's gone for good. No fuss, no muss. And the final one, dispatched just 2 nights back. Ryan, you'd better bring your A-game, because I'm not here for just any old shenanigans. My breath hitched, as if it had suddenly decided to take a vacation without me. Hey there, Ryan? Tina was as absent as a sock in a dryer full of mismatched laundry. Yoga? Nope, not a trace of it around here. Well, look at that. I finally had a name. Who knew it could be so thrilling? I gave my phone a little lock, tucked it away like a secret, and strolled into the kitchen, ready for whatever culinary adventure awaited me. My hands were doing a little dance of their own. She emerged a few minutes later, towel-clad and sporting cheeks that could rival a ripe tomato, all thanks to the steamy embrace of the hot water. Ah, the sweet sound of contemplation. I'd feel like a human again, she said, planting a kiss on my shoulder, as if that little gesture could magically reboot my entire existence. How about we indulge in some Thai food? Sounds delicious, right? I cracked a grin. Absolutely. Whatever it takes for you and the little one. She let out a hearty chuckle. Got it? You're going to rock this dad thing. I gave a nod, as if I were the wise sage of a distant land, but really, I was just trying to look like I understood what was happening. Well, that's the game plan, folks. That night, I found myself wide awake, gazing at the ceiling while her hand rested softly on my chest, blissfully unaware of my insomnia. Ryan was the only thing on my mind, like a catchy tune that just wouldn't quit playing in my head. Who on earth was he? Just how long had this little escapade been unfolding? Was this part of her master plan all along, or did she just wing it with him from the get-go? It was as if the last 2 months had been borrowed from someone else's life, each moment slipping away like a forgotten dream. The sheer delight. The chuckles. The betrayal was more than just what she said. She was as comfortable as a cat in a sunbeam. Her cozy little haven. She could spin a tale with such ease, it was as if lying came more naturally to her than inhaling and exhaling. But I wasn't ready to have that chat with her just yet. Let her spin her tales. Let her believe I was still the simpleton. Because when I decided to hit back, I wanted her to experience that same icy, pristine wreckage I'd been lugging around since Tuesday morning. The more she flashed that grin, the more I found myself wishing for a good old-fashioned rain cloud to roll in and spoil the fun. Each and every phony chuckle. Each morning, a little peck on the lips to kickstart the day. Every time she placed her hand on her belly, it was as if she were cradling a secret, something precious that only she could feel. It turned my stomach, I tell you. But I kept a straight face, like a seasoned actor in a comedy sketch. I mastered the art of pretending, leaving her in the dust. I began my morning routine a bit earlier for work. I mentioned I was juggling meetings like a circus performer with a penchant for chaos. Truth be told, I was just popping in to see a lawyer buddy of mine. A fellow who prefers the sound of silence. Expert in untangling marital knots. I wasn't quite ready for a file just yet. Nope. I found myself craving a little extra, like a writer searching for that perfect plot twist. How about we get down to brass tacks? I decided to take a closer look. I hopped onto our joint savings account and spotted something that made my jaw do a little dance of tension. Well, it seems I've made 2 little trips to the bank this past month, each time waving goodbye to $2,000. Quite the adventure, isn't it? One piece of furniture with a label on it. The other one? Just cold, hard cash. It seemed like the furniture fairy had taken a vacation, because there was nothing new in sight. I definitely didn't pull $2,000 out of my pocket, that's for sure. I took a little peek at our credit card account. Well, would you look at that? Another twist in the tale. A cozy little spot booked for a staycation adventure. It was 3 weeks ago, give or take a few days, but who's counting, right? In her own right. But in another city altogether. Only a single night. Word on the street is that she was off at a spa with Mia, probably sipping cucumber water and pretending to be zen. It looks like Ryan has a soft spot for spas. I made sure to capture it all in glorious screenshot form. I tucked away some copies on a trusty flash drive, just in case my computer decides to take an unexpected vacation. Then she went ahead and backed it up again on a cloud drive she didn't even know existed. Surprise! That weekend, we found ourselves sharing a meal with her folks. She clutched my hand like it was a lifeline, never letting go for even a second. Slipped into that cozy beige maternity dress she snagged from the internet. We chatted about baby showers and the colors that would make even a rainbow a bit jealous. Her mom lit up like a Christmas tree. Her dad and I had a little clink together. "You're going to be a fantastic dad, Ethan," he said, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. I gulped down the sour taste in my throat and gave a reluctant nod. "Much appreciated, kind sir. I'm all set to be." Olivia nestled in closer, her head finding a cozy spot on my shoulder as if she were auditioning for a romantic comedy. Well, perhaps she did. Or perhaps she was simply enamored with the notion of what I had to offer. Ah, love? Love isn't exactly the kind of thing you can check out of a hotel with a receipt for, nor does it come with a burner phone marked yoga for those secretive rendezvous. Later that night, she found herself nestled in bed, mindlessly scrolling through her phone like it held the secrets of the universe, or at least the latest cat memes. I plopped down next to her. "I've been mulling it over," I said. "What's the scoop?" she inquired. "So, about that private OB thing? Yeah, I may have stretched the truth a bit. A one-of-a-kind gem. Well, you see, it's all about ensuring you receive top-notch care." She glanced upward, her eyelids fluttering, as if time had decided to take a leisurely stroll for just a heartbeat too long. "Oh, absolutely, that's just the sweetest thing, darling. But I really don't want to tempt fate here. I reckon we ought to hang tight for just a bit longer." "Well, naturally," I flashed a grin. "Whenever you feel like it, just give me a shout." Yet, it seemed she was destined to remain just out of reach. Because the only plot twist she was prepared for involved losing the baby and strutting away with a nice little paycheck. Little did she know, I had already locked up the vault tighter than a drum. And it turns out, the only one strutting off into the sunset would be yours truly. She stood in the doorway like a battle-hardened warrior, fresh from the front lines and ready to recount her tales of glory, or at least the epic saga of her grocery shopping trip. She looked like a ghost, with pale skin and eyes that had seen too many late nights, her sleeves pulled over her hands as if they were trying to hide from the world. "Ethan," she said, her voice wobbling like a poorly balanced seesaw. I glanced away from my laptop, keeping my mouth shut, and just sat there, waiting like a cat eyeing a sunbeam. Well, gather round because I've got a little nugget of news to share with you. I believe I've misplaced the little one." "Not a peep." She fixed her gaze on me, clearly anticipating the dramatic gasp, the heartfelt hug, and an avalanche of sympathy. All I did was gently close my laptop, like a secret being tucked away, slow and quiet. "Just put it on the back burner for now." Gaze straight into her eyes, like you're trying to decipher the secrets of the universe, or at least what she had for breakfast. "Did a little one ever come along, Olivia?" She gave her eyelids a little workout. "Excuse me, what on earth?" I posed a straightforward question, nothing too fancy. I remarked with a steady voice. Did a baby ever make an appearance in this grand tale? She let out a laugh, quick and a bit jittery, like a startled cat on a hot tin roof. Ethan, what on earth are you rambling about? Well, naturally there was. I was feeling a bit off. Well, 2 weeks ago, I decided to jump right in. I strolled down the stairs to grab my phone and caught you chatting away with Mia. At that moment, she turned into a statue, frozen in place, as if someone had hit the pause button on her life. I swear I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but somehow, my ears had other plans. So, here's the kicker, he's still under the impression that I'm expecting a little one. I'll just say it mysteriously vanished into thin air. Everything is unfolding just as I envisioned it. She opened her mouth, but it was as if a gaggle of words had decided to take a vacation instead. Do you recall ever uttering that gem? I inquired, giving my head a little tilt. Well, that's just how I roll. Exactly as it is. Ethan, come on, that was totally taken out of context. Is this a bit off the beaten path? I arched an eyebrow, as if it were a tiny flag signaling my disbelief. Which bit didn't quite fit in? So, are we talking about the moment you decided to pull a fast one on me or the grand scheme you had cooking up all along? I didn't exactly have a grand scheme in mind. Fear had me in its grip. Oh, come on now, you can't possibly be scared. You've got a knack for bending things to your will, don't you? Oh, let me tell you, there's a world of difference. She took a step ahead. How about we have a grown-up chat about this, like two partners who actually know what they're doing? I let out a scoff, a sound that could only be described as a mix between disbelief and mild amusement. The moment you told your boyfriend you had it all under control, you waved goodbye to that idea, didn't you? Well, that hit the mark. Her lips did a little dance of their own. Her eyes flitted around like a squirrel on espresso. Who on earth is this guy? I inquired. So, we're talking about Ryan, huh? Or perhaps I should refer to her as Tina from yoga? She went as pale as a ghost. Sure, I said, rising to my feet. Well, I've been keeping an eye on things too. I've been all ears. Hotel bills and a flurry of texts. You really left a breadcrumb trail, didn't you? You really thought I wouldn't take a peek, huh? Ah, the sweet embrace of silence. She gulped, crossed her arms over her belly, as if trying to shield the fib from the world. I really wanted to take you at your word, I said. I was all set to dive into the wild world of fatherhood. I gave that nursery a makeover not once, but twice, because who doesn't love a little extra work, right? You mentioned that the green had a bit too much of that Mindy vibe going on. Do you recall that moment? She gave a slight nod, almost as if she was trying to convince herself it was a good idea. I would have handed you the universe, Olivia, but instead, you spun me a tale, and you seem to forget that I can decipher the fine print. She gave it another go. Well, this certainly wasn't part of the plan. Oh, come on now, it definitely wasn't. Well, look at you. You've pushed it this far, and now you're about to discover just how far I can stretch this little adventure. I really wanted to believe you, I said. I was all set to dive into the wild world of fatherhood. I gave that nursery a fresh coat of paint not once, but twice, because who doesn't love a little extra work for the sake of cuteness? You mentioned that the green was a bit too minty for your taste. Do you recall that little gem? She gave a slight nod, almost as if she was trying to convince herself more than anyone else. I would have handed you the universe, Olivia, but instead, you spun me a tale, and you seem to forget that I can decipher the fine print. She gave it another shot. Well, this certainly wasn't part of the plan. Oh, come on now, it definitely wasn't. Well, look at you. You've pushed it this far, and now you're about to discover just how far I can stretch this little adventure. He resides roughly an hour from the hustle and bustle of town, in one of those serene neighborhoods where the trees stand tall and the driveways are as wide as the conversations are short, where folks wave at each other simply to break the monotony. He swung the door wide, clad in sweatpants and a look that could only be described as bewildered. Well, would you look at that? What on earth just transpired? Grab a couch, pour a drink, and give me 10 minutes to completely upend your perception of Olivia. We lounged in his den, a not-so-fancy bottle of whiskey perched between us, while I spilled my guts like a clumsy bartender at happy hour. The pretend pregnancy, the chat I caught wind of, the texts, and the hotel stay. He just sat there, eyes wide, as if I'd just declared that the earth was a pancake. He finally muttered, "She always seemed so normal." Who knew normal could be so complicated? That was the mask, I declared with a flourish. Well, it seems she's got that outfit game on lock, better than her makeup, if I'm being honest. The following day, I found myself sitting across from a lawyer, wondering if I was about to get some sage advice or just a hefty bill. No procrastination, no more putting it off until tomorrow. I had reached my limit of snoozing next to a woman who turned motherhood into a strategic tool for her own gain. We put together the papers, neat and tidy, like a well-organized sock drawer, just a bit less exciting. I shuffled my savings around like a magician with cards, yanked my name off every shared asset like it was a bad haircut, froze all joint access points as if they were popsicles, and left nothing open, because who needs that kind of drama in their life? She didn't just wreck the relationship, she turned it into a full-blown crime scene, complete with yellow tape and a detective on the case. I wasn't about to tiptoe away like a ninja, but I also didn't plan on making a scene like a soap opera star. I planned to wrap this up like a responsible grown-up, which is more than I can say for her antics. 2 days later, I found myself rolling back into her driveway once more. Same house, same porch, and those ever-persistent wind chimes jingling by the window, like they're auditioning for a role in a quirky indie film. She swung the door open as if she hadn't had a decent meal, a good night's sleep, or even a proper breath in ages. "You came back," she said, as if the universe had just handed her a winning lottery ticket. I strolled in with a purpose, folder in hand, and said, "I've got something for you." At first, she just stared at it like it was a particularly confusing puzzle piece. What in the world is this? Ah, reality. That delightful concoction of the mundane and the extraordinary, where dreams sometimes take a coffee break and the absurd often shows up uninvited. It's like a novel where the plot twists are just a bit too familiar, yet somehow still manage to keep us on our toes. Cheers to the everyday adventures that make life a little more interesting. I gently set it in her hands, like a clumsy magician revealing his final trick. With all the grace of a tortoise on a leisurely stroll, she opened it slowly. Her fingers danced nervously over the words "petition for divorce." "So, you're actually going through with this, huh?" She leaned in and whispered. "You pretended to be pregnant, Olivia. Well, it seems like someone played a little fast and loose with the rules, didn't they? You fibbed. You used me like a chess piece in your little scheme, didn't you? Oh, you bet I'm diving right into this adventure." She gazed up at me, her eyes shimmering like a pair of freshly polished marbles. Yet, there we were, basking in our own little bubble of joy. "Absolutely not," I declared. Life was treating me well, and I found myself grinning like a fool on a sunny day. "You were practicing your lines, weren't you?" I spun around, strolled back to the car, and just as I shut the door, it hit me, I finally recognized her reflection for what it truly was. It wasn't grief or guilt that hit her, it was the bewildering realization that the man she believed would let anything slide had suddenly decided to draw the line at absolutely everything. 4 whole days had passed. 4 days of utter silence. Silence so loud, it could make a statue feel neglected. No texts, no calls, no status updates, just me and my thoughts, which are starting to feel like a bad sitcom without a laugh track. She had no clue where I was crashing. I took care of that, no worries. So there I was, just minding my own business on a Friday evening, when she decided to make a grand entrance right outside my office. I was strolling over to my car when I spotted her, propped up against it like a character straight out of a heart-wrenching ballad, decked out in a hoodie and jeans. Her eyes looked like they had just come from a boxing match, lips all chapped and sad, and her hands were shoved deep into her sleeves, like a kid caught red-handed with a broken vase and no idea how to explain it. "Ethan," she began. I popped the car door open, all while keeping my eyes firmly away from her. A true master of distraction, if I do say so myself. "Please," she said, stepping right in front of me like a traffic con in a busy intersection. "Only 5 minutes, can you believe it? That's all I'm looking for, really. You've already spent 9 weeks tangled in a web of fibs. 5 minutes? That's like trying to fix a flat tire with a band-aid. Good luck with that." She jumped a little. "I swear, I wasn't trying to hurt you," she blurted out, her words tumbling over each other like a clumsy juggler at a circus. Fear had me in its grip. I sensed you drifting, and I couldn't help but wonder if we needed a grand solution, something monumental to patch things up between us. "So, you went ahead and created a mini version of yourself, huh?" I lost my cool. "Oh, a human being, you say? Quite the fascinating creature, aren't they? Full of quirks and oddities, like a cat that thinks it's a dog or a dog that believes it's a cat. Truly, the wonders of humanity never cease to amaze. Is that really the choice you settled on?" She averted her gaze, a blush creeping up her cheeks like a shy kid at a school dance. "I figured you'd be out the door before I could even finish my coffee." "You're spot on," I replied, "but not because you weren't expecting a little one, it's just that honesty seemed to take a vacation. "Ethan, I miss you," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath, like a secret meant only for the wind. I goofed up, "But hey, I still love you." "No, Olivia," I said, shaking my head as if that would somehow make my answer more convincing. "It seems like love has taken a detour, doesn't it? Your appreciation for my work on your image is truly heartwarming. There's a certain charm in having a go-to scapegoat, someone to twist around your finger, and who won't pry too much into your shenanigans." She gave it a shot to say something. I lifted my hand like it was the most important thing in the world, as if it held the secret to the universe, or at least the answer to the question nobody asked. "You claimed we were happy," I said, "but let's be real, we weren't." I was sitting there, soaking it all in, just like a sponge at a comedy club, waiting for the punchlines to hit. "You were putting on quite the show." A lengthy, quiet gap hung between us like an awkward pause in a bad sitcom. And then she hit me with a curveball I never saw coming. "Oh, come on now, you can't just waltz off like it's a casual stroll in the park." "Well, look at you, my dear husband." I smiled, but it wasn't exactly a warm and fuzzy kind of smile. "No, Olivia, I was your husband, but you laid that guy to rest the moment you gazed into my eyes and announced I was going to be a dad." I hopped into my car, gave the door a solid thud, and zoomed away, leaving her to face the chilly air like a penguin in a tuxedo. She always took her own path. The divorce wrapped up a month later, but it was more than just a split. It was quite the ordeal. And in that courtroom, the truth finally decided to speak up, no more tiptoeing around like a cat on a hot tin roof. It flickered to life on the screens, like a surprise guest at a party who shows up just when you thought the fun was over. My lawyer laid it all out on the table. She recorded herself confessing to the fib. Messages sent to her beloved under the charming alias Tina from yoga. The receipts from the hotel stay. No medical records, no prescriptions, and not a single appointment in sight. And there she was, thinking to herself, "I'll just tell him I misplaced it. Everything is unfolding just as I envisioned it." Well, it turns out that plan was as straightforward as a pancake on a Sunday morning. Pull off a little charade of being with child. Stretch it out just enough to get to the divorce papers, huh? Well, it sounds like it's time to put on your superhero cape and go after the child support. Why not aim for the whole shebang, right? Ah, the classic maneuver. Only this time, her audience was armed with pens and paper, ready to capture every gem of wisdom she tossed their way. The judge had a knack for cutting through the nonsense like a hot knife through butter. Deception at its finest. Oh, the art of manipulation. It's like trying to juggle flaming torches while riding a unicycle, impressive when done right, but one wrong move and you might just set the whole circus on fire. It's a dance of wits, where the steps can be as slippery as a banana peel. Just remember, with great power comes great responsibility, or at least a really good story to tell at parties. Intentional trickery. The decision came down quicker than a cat on a hot tin roof. She walks away with absolutely nada. Definitely not the house. Definitely not alimony. Not a single cent from my wallet. What about Ryan, you ask? And just like that, he was gone. Poof. Like a magician's trick gone slightly awry. And just like that, the cat was out of the bag. When the screenshots landed in his wife's inbox, it was like watching a slow-motion train wreck, hilarious and horrifying all at once. When his name popped up in a legal hearing, he vanished like a magician's rabbit, leaving her wondering if he ever existed at all. Gave her number the old heave-ho. Big farewell to social media. Switched gigs. He vanished like a magician's rabbit, poof. Just like every coward tends to do when the going gets tough. Swift as a whisper and gone without so much as a wave. What about yours truly? I didn't exactly feel like I'd just conquered a mountain. No party was thrown on my watch. Well, I did manage to close the door behind her, just like a well-rehearsed scene in a novel where the protagonist finally takes a stand, except, with less drama and more of a casual flick of the wrist. And this time, it decided to keep its secrets to itself. I had this grand vision of becoming a father, like a character straight out of a novel, complete with a heartwarming backstory and a few comedic mishaps along the way. She was after a little cash, plain and simple. Well, it seems one of us finally got a taste of our own medicine. I had this vision of a family, like the kind you see in movies, where everyone gets along and there's always a warm pie cooling on the windowsill. But let's be real, life's more of a sitcom than a fairy tale sometimes. She was on a hunt for some child support. Well, would you look at that? Someone strolled off without a single prize in hand.